Hello world, welcome to the journalist chat today, and today we have a very special guest from the Romania, and she is a Boróka, and she's 43 years old, and she has been working for a long time in Romanian broadcast company. So please welcome our guest tonight. How Boróka, how
Nice,
are you?
nice to meet you and glad to be with you.
Yeah,
It's
how are
really
you?
special. Thank you very much. Overwhelming times, and I'm a very curious journalist, so it's very interesting and not so easy.
Yeah. So if I ask you, and we know that right now the situation is going on around the world. This is very bad time is going on around the world. Even most of the country are affected by the COVID-19. So what is the present context and present situations in your country?
I'm right now in Eastern Europe um, and working for the public Romanian broadcasting radio company. But my status is very special because I'm a member of the Hungarian minority from Romania. So I'm working as a minority journalist, working on minority issues, refugee issues, and human rights issues, and following the COVID situation from this point of view, it's quite tensioned, may I say, very difficult, and no one knows what the tomorrow will bring us.
I mean, what kind of tension is going on? Like the country, the government are not able to control properly, or they are not able to manage it properly, or what tension is going on there?
So let's take it separately. I'm talking about the situation in the country, and let's think about the refugee issues on what I'm working on. The Eastern and Central European COVID situation, may I say, it's not easy, but it's good. It's a developed country, so there is not so dramatic problems than I can imagine than in Bangladesh, for example, or Indian. The population density is not so high, and I guess this is the most difficult problem as I see now. So the situation is under control. I hope so.
Yeah,
There is a
and I
lot.
know. Yeah, please go ahead.
But the situation in refugee camps, in European refugee camps, and at the border of the European Union is very complicated, and I'm very worrying about the people living in those areas.
Yeah, I mean, we know that right now the one is COVID-19 and pandemic, and all the people around the world they're facing a problems. And in the meantime, we saw a lot of times even in European border there's a problem when the people are trying to migrate from one country to the another, especially the European border. And in the meantime, we also know the here is what is going on and about the Rohingya after the Rohingya influx and also the Rohingya crisis. So, if I ask you, like, I know you have been working in Rohingya issues for a long time, and you get award for one of the work, and what was amazing, like work on the you interview the people those who had an experience of the genocide. So, if you share with us a little bit about like when you came in Bangladesh and what was your work and exactly what is the impact of your work.
I am working, as I said before, I'm working on refugee issues and human rights issues, and the Rohingya problem is very peculiar, very special. And I guess um, that refugee camp in Cox's Bazar is something very interesting. And if we want to learn how to manage a refugee problem, we had to focus on that area because it's a very huge crowd there. Very special problems, the lack of materials, the lack of tents, a lot of people coming from Myanmar without vaccines. And I was working on that healthcare issues before the COVID outbreak. So I was very worried on that healthcare issues in refugee camps. and I try to brought the attention on that problems that there will be one day. I said in 2018 an outbreak in these refugee camps long before the COVID outbreak. And I guess if you want to learn to manage the social and healthcare problems, not just in refugee camps in Europe and the European borders, we have to try find solution for Cox's Bazar, because that is the largest camp. There are the largest and the most severe problems, and if we have no methodology to handle the problems in this kind of areas, like in Cox's Bazar, we will not able to manage the problems in other parts of the world. So
Yeah, I
I
mean,
guess it's a field of learning, Cox's Bazar, a kind of I don't know. So we have to try. We have to find a solution for that area, because there are the most severe problems in Cox's Bazar. I have been in many refugee camps in Europe, in Africa, but I guess the most severe problems are in Cox's Bazar.
yeah, I mean, so it's not only happening only the to 2017. So basically, the Rohingya crisis and Rohingya problem is it has been for a long time, and it's
30,
happening inside in
30,
Myanmar.
3 decades, three
Yeah,
decades, I guess.
three decades. Yeah. So exactly, like who make the solutions? Because like everyone, when they are talking about the solutions, somebody need to make the solutions, and somebody need to do something. So who will make the solution, and when it will happen?
What I have another question. What
Mm.
are we meaning? What is the solution? There is not, and please forgive me. I'm using a very inappropriate notion. There is no final solution. We are not looking for one solution. We are looking for many solutions. First of all, to know the people, how many people are there, and what kind of problem are them do they have. 1 million problem. 1 million people means 1 million problems.
Problem.
1 million, yes, 1 million person, and they need personal attention. Every person needs personal attention.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, when the situation is itself like the problem, and you are covering the European border, and also you are covering the different minority issues around the world. So I mean, so people are talking about right now, they just convert their attentions. They right now pay attentions to the other issues like world public health issues around the world. So in the meantime, they are forgetting about what exactly happening, and they left the place where the millions of people are surviving. So I mean, the contacts you're living there, so how people are think about that? Is still they're remembering, is still they're talking about the crisis, or try to figure out the solutions?
The people, and I don't know what I'm talking about when I meant people. So the attention, the audience, the public audience worldwide is attracted by so dramatic pictures, short and very easy stories. They are dying, they are coming through the sea. But yes, these are the short narratives, and we have to learn to understand, to see the larger narratives, not just one short story, but to know. For example, you are talking about Cox's Bazar, but do you know exactly how many people are there? Because at the border, European border, we have no proper numbers, about the refugee camps in Greece or at the Turkish European borders. These are very close places to European Union, and even in these closed places, there is several lack of proper information. So that's why I'm asking you, what do you know right now? I know, and because I'm following the events in Cox's Bazar, that there is a lockdown, the camps are closed. But do you have recent and proper information what is going inside in the camps? It means the number of peoples, the healthcare issues, how many
Yeah, I
children.
can give you the one of the information so what I'm informed from the ground. So basically, the few of the organizations they're allowed to work inside in the camp because we know that the millions of around 1 million people are there. So the people, those who are working for the health facilities, those who are working for the emergencies, and they're able to go inside in the camp. And Triple RC gave them permissions to go. And like around 200 national, international, local organizations are working there. So and there's a lot of communications departments, or there's a lot of programs are going on inside, and people try to get understand and from the ground, like every day they try to get response from the beneficiary and from the survivors. So in this context, like still the situations, whatever we know from the report, even when it's because the network is okay to make a call to them, so we are able to communicate. So still the situations is under control, situations okay, but the tense is nobody knows what will happen the next. And if everyone can assume the present and current situations because people are moving there, and every day humanitarian worker are try to go and try to communicate with the survivors and also the peoples. And definitely it's not possible to take information from 1 million people every day, and it's not possible, but people try and
Because
health workers are working. Yeah.
because I'm pretty sure that another method is needed, of fact check, of gathering
Yeah.
information, data gathering, data mining in this kind of conflict zone, or I don't know, refugee camps. And another approach to get information. And I guess there I have no answer. How is it possible to get reliable information from these kind of areas? Because yes, you are right, there are many NGOs, many kind of institutions, but to put together the big picture, it's pretty difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm a little bit agree with you. Like it's kind of difficult to cross check, but in the meantime, so, though we are talking about inside in the camp, there's no internet, but people are using in different ways. So people, for the cross check is not all the time possible, but sometimes if you try to cross check over the phone, even try to communicate exactly what happens, because people are kind of concerned, but collective data and something in very fresh from the ground, I think it's sometimes difficult. I may agree with you.
And this is the new in this situation, COVID situation. Before the COVID, it was enough to gather stories, short
Yeah.
stories, longer stories, to record interviews. If you had enough interviews, you became able to put together the big picture. But an outbreak is another story. You need number of cases, you need proper information about testing or not testing. You need proper information about medical personals, sensitive information. So it's pretty difficult and a
Yeah,
total new
still,
situation.
still the situation is not outbreak there, because the few of the health worker or health organizations they are working, like the MSF are working there, and sometimes they are providing the informations, but still yet there is no sufficient the health facilities to test. Even this is a problem in around the world. It's not only in the camp. So
Yes, I have read a joke about Bangladesh that the WHO said, "Congratulations for your low number of COVID cases. There is only 7 COVID cases in Bangladesh." Oh yes, and how many tests did you take? 7. Do you
No,
understand
no.
me?
This is I don't. Yeah, I think it might be the jokes, but right now every day our testing is going on, and like 300, 3,000, 4,000 testing, and that's why the quantity is also increasing. Like 400 case confirm and 7 people die. Yeah, this is going on right now. Government start to test a lot of people, like more than 1,000 people. So in this context, like if I ask you something like, You have been you are working for a long time as an investigative journalist. So what motivations, what things makes you to be a journalist? Because sometimes I saw in your post, like, though I'm not able to understand the Romanian language, but there's a Google translator, sometimes you write about there's a lot of journalists are torture and they face several types of problems. So what motivations do you have to do journalism?
I try to change the focus, the European focus, because mainly the European journalists and the European audience is focusing on Europe and don't see through the European borders. And I guess we have to understand the areas outside the European borders. We have a responsibility with Asia, for example, South Asia. So I try to bring closer stories and closer problems from South Asia. For example, we are talking about lockdown in Western countries, and we mean that everyone has to go home and stay home. But what about those billions who have no homes, who have to stay on streets or in public spaces? Or we are talking about the finding of vaccines, and we have a lot of vaccines here in Europe, TBC vaccine, for example. But what about those millions who have no vaccines at all? I have seen a lot of measles cases in Cox's Bazar, children dying because they have no basic vaccines in Myanmar, coming from Myanmar without any vaccine. So we have to reconsider what is it mean vaccine system or the basic
Yeah.
health care system.
Yeah. One of the audience from Italy, but he's living in Bangladesh. So he write one of the things like, I want to say that in Bangladesh there is a 160 million of people. So we talk about Rohingya. I mean, he's trying to ask to us like why we are talking about the Rohingya, because there is a 160 million people in Bangladesh. I mean, in a country there is a problem. Why need to talk about Rohingya? What about your answer? And according to him.
Always the minority groups are the litmus tests of a society. And I was amazed by the openness of the Bangladeshi society when they accepted the Rohingya minority, when the refugee crisis has been started in 2017. I was working at the Turkish-Iraqi border with Yazidi people, and I have seen a big difference. The Bangladeshi society were more open and more ready to help the Rohingya. The minority cases are showing about the openness and about the readiness of a society for cooperate, and it's really amazing what I have seen in Bangladesh.
Yeah.
It,
I'm
this society, I guess, have a lot of social problem, but there is a lot of sources to get over these problems. A very politically and culturally very active society, really amazing.
yeah. Thank you. I think yeah, that's the things, either like the if it still has a problem of inside, like there's a 160 million people, but the 1 million receiving 1 million people, this is a very top job. So if I ask you, like, in your journalism career, so right now you're editor for one of the broadcast media company in Romania. So basically, what role you're playing there? What about your job?
I'm working for the public broadcasting company, but for the minority channel. So I'm living in Romania, but working and speaking Hungarian. And I'm editing and making reports on minority issues, social and cultural issues in minority communities. And I have a lot of contacts with minority groups worldwide. It means with Yazidi peoples, with Rohingya peoples, Kurdish peoples, very intensive relation with Kurdish peoples, and so on. It's very really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you are as an investigative journalist, so when you go in the field and try to cover the crisis, so what things you all the time keep in your mind?
Being a member of a minority group means that you are more sensitive and vulnerable. And everyone, in a point of view, everyone is a member of a minority group, or from ethnic point of view, or religious point of view, or sexual point of view. Everyone is vulnerable, but we have to learn and to find out what is the most vulnerable points of our lives. And I'm investigative this weakness of our lives, to find the weakest points of a healthcare system. For example, that's why I have been working on vaccines program, or the
Routine of that, yeah.
cancer corruption systems, or the baby adoption programs. There are the most dramatic stories. The
Yeah.
surrogate mother systems, a worldwide network of smuggling people, let's say it harshly. So that's,
Yeah, I mean,
and
so
always
you,
it's very interesting that usually the members of minority groups are captured in this kind of illegal networks, because they are vulnerable, they are poorer than the majority of a society. So that's why they are involved always in this kind of very
yeah.
dangerous
Yeah, I
situation.
mean, when you choose something to write a headline, so what things you all the time prioritize? And I know, like, you have been covering the minority crisis for a long time. And so, also the another question, if I add it, like, what difficulties you face to like to continue the journalism or to do the reporting, because when you keep communications with a lot of smugglers and also the different minority peoples, as a journalist, this is, you have a right to communicate. So what difficulties you faced in your experience?
Uh, as a journalist, or the most difficult is to know in safety mind contexts. For example, I was working in Turkey last couple of weeks, and my context has been disappeared in a moment, and I was investigating what did happen with them, and I realized that they were in a refugee camp. Very probably they were contaminated with COVID, and the Turkish authorities decided to hide them. And it was really a difficult investigative work to find in somewhere in Turkey an Iranian group, and we finally I managed to find them via internet and WhatsApp and Facebook and social media. But I felt it the responsibility, because I'm sitting here in Europe as a European citizen in a safe area, and I'm working with people in very dangerous places. So I have a responsibility for them. And of course, the most important thing to bring them safety. And I'm writing in just in one case, if I can do something good for them. I'm not looking for stories for the first page. I don't want very spectacular headlines. I don't want to get prizes with my writings. I'm informing my audience, and first of all, I'm working for those people who are in need. So that's
Yeah.
why it's the journalist. We are serving the people, not doing our career, or serving our aims or our names. It's
Yeah,
that
I mean, I
the
mean, I mean,
publicity
I
is the,
mean, yeah, I mean, this is a kind of different perceptions, like serving the people, not focusing the career. Yeah, yeah, and there's a lot of debate on that. Like, people say, like, okay, focus on the career and do the good headline and good stories. So there is a debate on that. So what important story, like, in, because you have been working it for a long time. So what story still you can remember, like, yes, something happened, and whenever you feel, whenever you are alone, but you are able to remember, yes, that's things happen. Yeah, this is a story in your life experiences all the time remind you. Can you share with us one of the story?
I have been working with surrogate mothers. You know what does it mean, surrogate mother? When you
Sorry.
are being
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
surrogate mother
Okay, can you please
in
share? Yeah.
and I was working with women who were in trouble, and in order to get money, they became surrogate mothers. And it was really, really shocking to see how the human body can become um, a tool of the market, and how the human beings can be sold on the market. It's a really shocking procedure, and I guess it is becoming more and more popular because the population in Europe is increasing, so there is a high number of clients who are seeking for surrogate mothers. Very interestingly, in Asia and in Caucasus, in developing countries, in developing and poor countries. That was, I guess, the most dramatic and shocking experience.
Yeah.
And
And yeah, please go
no,
ahead.
no, no.
Yeah, I mean, when we are talking about like this kind of a story, like the journalists all the time remember. And if I ask you, like, sometimes we say information is kind of a suicidal information for the journalist. When you talk about the mental health of the journalist, because we are as a journalist, we all the time collect a lot of information, even more than we publish. So when you keep in your mind that all the information, but you are not able to publish, or sometimes you are not able to release on that, so how you keep your mental health? I mean, what about your perceptions about the journalist mental health? Why it's needed?
Yes, we are overwhelmed. It's true. I feel it. I cannot get rid of my stories. And I'm always saying that I'm not just a journalist, and my contacts are not just contacts. They are humans. They are my friends, and I'm always following my stories, even for years. So I don't know. I have no proper answer. I know I have learned it that you need a coach, a supervisor, someone, a psychologist to talk with. But I guess I write a lot. That procedure to write is a kind of treatment when you are editing a film or writing a larger report. It's a kind of treatment, I guess. But I know
Yeah,
it is not the proper answer. The proper answer is to have a psychologist and to
yeah.
have a supervisor. But
Yeah, and yeah, and I'm trying to invite them and in my next sessions with the anyone mental health experts so that they can answer about what journalists need to keep maintain their mental health, because when they are preserving a lot of societal information. So you are responsible in South Asian humanitarian refugee, covering the humanitarian refugee crisis, and you've been
not
working.
not just South Asia. South Asia is my, and please understand it well. South Asia is my hobby. So if I may say it, so I really appreciate. I like that culture, and I feel very close that society to me. So that's why I'm focusing on South Asia. But I'm working on minority issues, and I'm researching the mass murders, places, or genocides. Like I said, I was working with Yazidi peoples, with Kurdish peoples, Armenian peoples. So yes,
Yeah.
that's
So right now we know that after the COVID-19, the lot of things change around the world, even the media industry, and a lot of things change in every sector. So what special things you like? You understand from the context, like what thing changed in Romania or in also the Europe, because
the
we know
main
that, like, yeah, after the
that
COVID-19.
that kind of journalism I am doing is. is built on one but very important rule: get close to the problems, go there, get in touch with the people. And that is what is look like that it will change. It will be not easy to go there to participate, and I don't know how can I continue this kind of journalism if it will not be possible to get visas, to get close to the people, to catch their hands and to be in physical contact. I'm really concerned. Have no idea what if there will be a tomorrow. It's a question if I
Yeah,
can continue this kind of field work. Very
yeah,
important is the field work, and I don't know. But in this crisis, I have learned how important is the journalist network, to know a journalist everywhere in the world. And you have asked me how can get help in troubled situation, and I feel myself, or we feel ourselves, our help. And I guess the experienced journalist can help a lot. So many times I'm taking the phone and talking with journalists, a lot of talk with journalists, and I love my colleagues, and I feel that strong network of journalists coming stronger and stronger in the time when the journalists have become public enemies. So a lot of targets against journalism and against journalists, but in the same way and in the same time, I see that this profession is becoming more and more stronger and smarter, and we find a lot of ways to
yeah,
communicate,
yeah,
to work together and to do teamwork.
yeah.
Not
And we know
working
that.
my
Yeah, yeah. Please continue.
not writing my headlines and not finding my special stories, but to build a team and to work in cross-border stories and
Yeah.
to see the context. That is the most important, I guess.
Yeah, we saw that in every year, like journalists are facing a lot of problems, and even around the world. So, do you think why it's happening? Why people are make the journalists as enemy, and why people torturing the journalist, and why it's happening, and what is the lackings of journalists?
I guess not the peoples are making the journalists public enemies. It's a kind of political strategies. This kind of populist political system running now worldwide needs enemies, and the easiest enemies is the journalist. Why? Because the journalist is in the front line of the communications. Our faces and our voices can be seen and can be heard. So the easiest target is the first people on the front line. That's why we have become a decade ago public enemies, and this kind of tension is getting worse and worse day by day because it's a political problem. But the same situation in academic networks, the same situation in cultural networks. So we are not alone as enemies.
Yeah. So one of the person. So Father Gibano, he basically asks like, please ask her, the journalists have the freedom to express their own idea in Romania.
Yes, I can say that, but it means always, it depends on what are you working on. I guess the most sensitive questions are related to the corruption cases, and I have to say that we have a lot of problems when we are working on investigative cases
Yeah.
related
So
to
when you
corruption.
investigate, when you are doing the investigations in the field, so what technique you basically use? Because you know that you have enemies, and you know that somebody can attack or somebody might attack, and also you have to be careful about your victims and also the other issues. So what technical theory and how you do your investigations, and what is the process?
The main rule that you are not working or never working alone. You have to have colleagues behind you. You have to spread your information to save your information, not to storage the information in the same location, to be in safe places. Always have a strategy to create a safe places for yourself, for your sources, for your information. So it's a quite difficult and a long-term procedure. To investigate, to write an investigative report, it doesn't mean 1 week or a month. It can be means 1 year or maybe two more years.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
many patient, good tools, good digital tools, and very smart way of
yeah.
handling the information.
Did you face any problem in your lifetime, like when you have done the investigative journalism and you
Always,
cover always?
always, you know, always as an investigative journalist, as a woman. So being a female journalist, it's another story. It's much more difficult because you are becoming public enemy, not just a journalist, but as a public person, as a woman. So being in these
Yeah, I
two
mean,
roles,
it's kind of a different perception. The most of the people in South Asia, they think about in Europe because they're talking about the women empowerment, they're talking about the women rights, and they're talking about the outlook of women. So, as a woman, when you are working as a journalist, I mean, why it's happening in Europe? When they're talking about a lot of good things.
everyone is talking about women empowering, but we all knows that the real life is different. We all knows that the real life is different, and the ways of hurting a woman, the ways of being labeled, attacked, are so different, and you can be under attack unseen. No one knows that you are facing daily with this kind of situation, and attacks, unseen attacks, digital attacks, and very different ways.
Yeah, I mean, this is so sad things, because when people are talking about, and this is kind of really, I mean, this is a reality. Like when people talking about the women empowerment, and there's a lot of programs where they're shouting about the women rights, but the reality is, in their country, in that context, the women are facing the problem. So I think, so if I talk about the human rights, because you're working with for the human rights, so when you're talking about the human rights, what is mean to you?
The human rights,
Yes.
something something which is questioned daily in Europe and outside the European Union, because we are so sensitive if we are talking about our human rights, and we are not aware that everyone has uh, its own human rights. The refugee people as well, in the refugee camps, the stateless people living in the nowhere. So everyone is aware of it's a selfishness. When we are talking about human rights, it's a very strong selfishness, and no one takes it seriously that the human rights are universal for everyone and every places, no matter where the people are living, in which status and which conditions. So I
Yeah.
guess that is the main problem.
Yeah, I mean, this is a problem is going on everywhere because, also the same thing when people are talking about the human rights in a lot of development countries and a lot of seminar symposium is going on. But beside of the seminar symposium, and there is a human rights violations is going on also. That's also has been seen for a long time. And this is a reality also.
And there is a lot of new way of targeting and endangering the human rights. For example, now during the COVID outbreaks, the right to be in a health area, to get the proper health care or health aid. These are also human rights. To have the chance to survive, it's a human right.
Yeah, I mean, so this is need to be practiced in every country and everywhere. So
And every
I mean,
situation.
in every situations, and if I share with you one things, and most of the and most when I invite any kind of European guests, that's I usually share, because you know that 85% in our RM, I mean in our economy depends on RMG sector. So in the meantime, when we heard that like, and all the European client they already canceled the order, so and they're not caring about the lever, and also they're not caring about what happening inside. But in the meantime, our factories owner and other people, they have to face, because they don't know what's going on, it suddenly cancel the order. So, and do you heard about that?
Yes, of course, and we were worried about that. When the lockdown has been announced, many people from Europe said that this will be a huge problem for the other countries, the developing countries, and the next step for us, because a lot of products will be missing from the markets. So yes, it's a global economic problem and responsibility.
Yeah, I think this is very good. Like, this is a global problem, and also the global responsibility to sometimes think also the take care of the country like Bangladesh, and also think about the what is going on, so that they can manage it, because you know this sector is growing up, and it's contributing huge in the world. So what about your right now we know the around the world the journalists are working. So what about your message to the journalists who are working around the world, who are doing investigative journalism,
Keep
from your
strong and
experience
be
there? Yeah.
keep strong and be connected. Most of all, be connected. We
Yeah.
are together strong. And
Yes.
you can write me and ask me, and I will help you anytime.
Yeah, I think that's the super things, you know, so that people are not feel alone, and they can work and they can communicate together. I think this is the purpose of the journalist chat when I started this show, and try to communicate with the people around the world, and already covered the 14 country, and from the 14 journalists from different country, and try to understand exactly what is going on, and how this what is the situation of my colleague around the world when they are working. So I think that's the things, you know. And if I ask you something like how you are enjoying your in your home quarantine, you are home quarantine or you are working in the field, or what's the situation?
Now, now I have to work home because there is a lockdown in Europe, but I'm really looking forward that time when I can go to work on field. And I'm very worried not to be able to work on field, but I'm hoping that that time will come soon.
Yeah, I think, and we also hope so. Like, this is also the wish from everyone. You know, we all are those who are working in the field, and try to get the test of like, okay, go to in the field and then work, do the interview. So I think this is a nature of us, those who are working. So we wish best. If you say something, I didn't ask. Like, if anything you feel to share with my audience, you can.
Just this, that if you need any information, idea, connection, feel free to contact me, and I'm ready to help you and to stay connected with you all. And I'm very glad to be, I feel honored to be with you tonight.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank you very
thank
much.
you. So, yeah, thank you to be here today. And so the audience, so we feel is during the time of lockdown, the creativity and the recreation, kindness, love is on lockdown, and we believe we all are together. We can work together, especially for the journalists, those who are working around the world. What Boróka share about, like, you are not alone. You are the
Yes.
frontliner. You are not alone. We all are together. Whatever problem we face, we all have to figure out together, and we all have to fight together. So, my audience, I should say good night and goodbye for tonight. And so, definitely another times I will bring with another guest from the another country, another part of the world, and definitely you will enjoy the show. And thank you, Burke. It's a huge honor for me, like you are here, and I hope you will be stay safe and happy. And feel free to communicate with the journalists from Bangladesh. They're doing amazing, and they're contributing in an amazing way. So feel free to communicate with any of the journalists around Bangladesh and any of the country. And I think your inspirations will help the journalists to develop and also will help the journalists to be strong. And we all should keep together and stay safe, stay home. Bye bye for tonight.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Yeah, bye.